I'll hop on calls with our salespeople and I hear them say things and say, we should not be selling that. It's really difficult to set up, if not impossible to set up. And so that's just making sure that there's good communication throughout the organization.
A relationship with the right referral partner could be a game changer for any B2B company. So what if you could reverse engineer these relationships at a moment's notice? Start a podcast, invite potential referral partners to be guests on your show, and grow your referral network faster than ever. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. My name is Ethan Beute, and I host the CX series, or the Customer Experience series, here on the show. And today's episode is practical and tactical. We're with Nick Hart, who is a strategic customer success manager, or CSM, at Outreach, a sales enablement platform. And we talk about success metrics. How do you source success metrics? And then how do you turn those into practical tools that you can use in sales and in CS to deliver a better customer experience and to measure that experience with and for the customer? We also get into the relationship between sales and CS and the relationship between marketing and CS. Because again, customer experience is the single most important thing we create and deliver every day, but it is the responsibility of so many different individuals and teams in an organization. So we have to work across teams, across sales, across marketing, and across CS to do a better job of it. And again, Nick gives us some really practical ways to do that. Nick, welcome to the podcast.
Ethan, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. So I open this always with the same question, and I'll ask it of you because I want to know how different people in different seats in the house see it differently. What to you, when I say customer experience, what does that mean to you? What does it conjure?
Oh, that's a great question. The first thing I'll say is it definitely sits outside of just the world of customer success. I really think it's the end-to-end experience that a prospect or customer has with your organization. So it starts from their first impression that they get with your marketing team to that first conversation that they have with sales, all the way through their hopeful expansion, but also maybe potential churn. So you really have to be thinking about that experience throughout the full life cycle of a customer.
It's great. I think a lot of people want to just kind of lay it into the CS. Well, we'll put that over there. But to your point, it is truly end to end. Tell me a little bit about Outreach.io so that as we get into some of the customer success metrics and how you manage those, so there's some context for it. Talk a little bit about Outreach.io, how you found them, and what you guys are trying to do in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So Outreach is a sales engagement platform. So it's a new space that we're defining ourselves. But what we do is we help salespeople engage with their prospects in a way that's, I guess, more efficient, more effective, telling them when they should be engaging with what types of touch points at which times. They don't have to do all of that manual work, the data entry, everything that was involved in the sales process before. We're getting rid of all of that, streamlining it so they can actually have more hours in their day to actually sell.
Awesome. So you're doing things like helping them manage cadences, track activity, look at the effectiveness of activity, et cetera?
Yeah, exactly. So what we're doing is we're taking your best performing rep and we're building a structure for which they're engaging with their prospects. And then we're allowing you to repeat that across everybody else on your team. So one of the driving functions or ways that we do this is via what's called a sequence, which sounds fairly simple in concept, but it's amazing the organizations that I work with, how much strategy they put behind this, as they should. But essentially what a sequence is you predefine the series of touch points that it's going to take to engage a prospect. And then you can put your prospects through that. And then you can start to measure what's working and what's not. So you can see, does it take 7 touch points? Does it take 3 emails, 3 phone calls? Or does it need maybe some LinkedIn steps, some social touches? All of that can be measured through outreach so that you can refine your process and become more effective over time.
That's awesome. So you're helping sales professionals and sales teams improve their share of the customer experience for their customers.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. We gotta fine tune your craft, make it as good as it possibly can be, so that you can have the best messaging to engage with your prospects in the right way and hopefully land them as customers.
Awesome. So as a CSM, I assume that you're working a lot off customer success metrics. Give me a little bit of a framework for how you and your team do it there. How do you gather the right metrics? How do you know they're the right metrics? How do you put them into play, right? It's one thing to have I know we all have dashboards in front of us off and on during the day, but how do you bring it to life and make it valuable? Talk a little bit about the customer success metrics that you all use and kind of a process maybe that other folks could use to get stronger in that area.
Yeah, great question. The interesting thing about this is this has been quite an evolution for us. When I first started here over 2.5 years ago, this concept of success metrics was completely new. What we've learned over time is that it's very easy in success to be sucked down into the weeds, have a really like a support level conversation with our customers, but that's not how you drive business value. And that's the business value that a lot of times your salespeople are talking about and selling up front. We need to make sure that we actually deliver on that. The analogy that I always give is your salespeople are selling the gym membership. Customer success is responsible for actually getting you in shape. So you need to know what those end goals are. But when you're thinking about how to aggregate these success metrics, ones that actually matter to your customers, there's a couple different places that you can go. First, ask your customers. They obviously, or they hopefully know what they want. You can talk to your customer success reps, your CSMs. They obviously talk to your customers every day and they know what types of projects that they're working on. And then also ask your salespeople. They're the ones that are selling the vision. They hopefully know what's resonating most. You're not going to get it perfect the first time around. We've definitely put together success metrics that either we don't actually know how to measure them, which is its own problem, or ones that customers don't care about. So it's always a moving target. It's always evolving. What we found is really helpful is you start to curate this list, and then you can suggest them. The way I always explain this is we try to build a menu for our reps that they can then take when they go to their EBRs, executive business reviews with their customers, and they can show their customers this menu of options. One thing that we've learned through this process is that a lot of times customers think they know what they want, but they don't actually know what they want. Or you'll come into a meeting and they say, oh yeah, we're so excited to discuss success metrics. And then we just ask them, and I've done this plenty of times when we were first in this process, I'd say, great, so what are some success metrics that you want to track? And they go,
I got nothing.
More calls. Like, oh, okay, but is more calls really going to move the needle on your business? And they go, well, I don't know. So that's why it's helpful to have a menu and be able to come to them and say, here's some other things that we've been working on with other similar customers that we think would be relevant to you, and then let them pick.
Yeah, I love it. So you curate from customers, your fellow CSMs and salespeople to generate a menu. I'm sure there's some kind of process of winnowing that down a little bit because you don't want a zillion things on the menu. So in this menu concept, what are a couple choice items about how many items are on the menu? Like if someone wants to do this process, because it seems like something you could get done over the course of, 30 days or so. If you put a couple people on it, have some conversations, talk to some customers and some fellow team members, you could generate a raw list. Like from that, what are we looking at? Are we looking at a dozen? Are we looking at 100? Like,
yeah, great question.
Where might someone land after round one?
Yeah. So what I can tell you is what we've done and what's worked for us.
Sure.
And this is also a great segue into once you've built this list, it has to be easy for your reps to consume, because just a static list somewhere, they're not going to know what to do with it, or it's going to be too much legwork to actually implement it into their process that they won't. So what we've done is we've actually just simply put together a repository of slides that our reps can pick and choose from and use those in their EBRs. There's probably about, I would say probably 20 to 25 success metrics in all. we wouldn't take 20 to 25 to a meeting with a customer. So the rep, to the best of their knowledge, will grab 4, maybe 5 at most, and put those into one deck and say, here's the metric that I think makes most sense for your business. Hopefully they're putting metrics in there that are relevant to the customer based on the conversations and the relationship that they've built so far. Put 4 or 5 in there, and we'll spend most of our executive business review on that one slide. Like out of a 90-minute meeting with a customer, we'll probably spend 30 to 45 minutes on one slide only. It's talking through success metrics. So the success metric being really like this strategic initiative that they're working on. You can think of success metrics in 2 different ways. There's the actual metric itself, but then there's what is the strategic outcome or goal that you're trying to achieve, which is really the 2 should be thought of in the same light. So
yeah, so we have this goal in concept, a qualitative goal, let's say, and then how do we know we got there is the actual metric part, the quant side of it. So that's the number representation of the idea we want to achieve.
It's exactly it. Yeah. And so the way that we lay this out to customers is they might say, we want to have a higher conversion rate on prospecting emails. Great. The success metric there is going to be the actual conversion rate. But the goal that we're trying to achieve is, more effective prospecting messaging, right? And so that really helps us kind of frame what is the goal, how are we going to measure against this goal, and then in that same motion, we actually talk through what are the projects in order to get us there. So by the time we leave that meeting, we know exactly how we're going to track it and how we're going to get there.
I love it. I think one of the places where a lot of folks fall down on customer experience in general is not having that explicit a conversation about what does success look like for you. Cool. Here are a few different ways we could paint it. Here's how we're going to measure it. And then we're going to check back in on it. I think I've been in this position before where, I think I know what success looks like for him or her. But when it finally bears itself out, I was off the mark, or we just saw it completely differently, or I thought they were successful, but they didn't, or vice versa. And so I love being really explicit and having a menu to choose from, and that you as the CSM prior to going into the review are narrowing that down so that there can be a very targeted conversation around it. Any other best practices here around success metrics?
Review them often. So we use that. We'll do our usually a quarterly check-in with our customers. And then that becomes your project plan for the next couple quarters or couple months, I should say. And then you review them at the next and just make sure that you're tracking progress for sure. That'd probably be my big one. We're in the motion right now of doing a better job of centralizing this and tracking it internally and figuring out which customers actually have defined set success metrics and how are we measuring against those. So that's kind of a work in progress for it. But most of all, as you define these, make them easy for your reps to use and then track them ongoing.
It's excellent. Now, you came a little bit from the world of sales. You've had some sales roles in the past. In fact, you were an outreach customer before you became an outreach team member. Talk about that transition, but then also speak to this. I want to cover this a few different ways. Having been a salesperson and having been a customer success professional, what do you wish more salespeople knew about the CS function, either in the context of customer experience or just in general? So again, talk a little bit about your transition from sales to CS and what do you wish more salespeople knew now that you've worked both sides of the fence?
Yeah, I love that question. There are plenty of nights that I stayed up, or sleepless nights, I should say, debating whether I was making the right decision. And still to this day, I often feel like I have to put my sales cap back on. I do miss that side of the house a little bit. But for me, the decision to move over to sales was because I wanted to have more strategic conversations with customers. And I wanted to be a little more technical. I think that was part of it as well. But yeah, just being able to up-level the conversation, the type of person that I was speaking with, and the path for me to be able to do that was quicker, honestly, through customer success. Now, I know problem solving is a lot of what you do in sales as well, but with customer success, I got to see that further through, which was fun for me. Mm-hmm. I guess if there's one thing, well, maybe there's a couple of things. Let's see how many come to mind. For my sales counterparts that I wish that they knew, or just that I wish I knew when I was in sales. First is if you cut any corners, it doesn't just disappear. Customer success is going to have to pick that up. So if you sell a deal that you're maybe over promising a little bit, it's not that once you get it over the line that problem just disappears. It means that somebody else in your organization is going to have to pick up the slack on that. And that's generally customer success. And then the other is, at least I know this is the case for our business, but really in the SaaS world, your CAC payback period is generally, for most startups, is more than 1 year. So I know when I was a salesperson, there was always that mentality of like, if I can just get this thing across the line, we'll be good to go. Everything is smooth sailing from here. And from a business standpoint, that's not really the case, because if you're overselling deals and they churn out after the first year, you're most likely losing money on those customers. So from a financial standpoint, it makes sense to really look big picture and try not to cut corners. So yeah.
I love that. I could feel heads nodding from collectively the listeners of the show who are in CS were collectively nodding as you're like, if someone cuts a corner up front, someone's got to clean it up in the end. There's no hiding. Like the bill will come due, and CS tends to have to pay that bill. I can see a lot of people getting behind that idea.
Yeah, and one thing I will throw in there too is that it was really difficult for me in the sales world to know these things because I didn't have the visibility that I wish I had into customer success. Mm-hmm. So for any organizations out there that are nodding their heads saying, yeah, we completely agree, you can't completely blame sales reps if they're left out of the loop. So I don't know whether it's a monthly meeting or a spreadsheet or a review, make sure that when customers do churn out or when there's problems that you're seeing in success, that gets back over to sales so that they know not to sell those deals. I'll sometimes hop on sales. No organization is perfect when it comes to this. I'll hop on calls with our salespeople and I hear them say things and say, we should not be selling that. It's really difficult to set up, if not impossible to set up. And so that's just making sure that there's good communication throughout the organization, getting back to those salespeople.
Yeah, that's killer. It's so good. It's so funny how much can be resolved. Because I can see, a couple CS people sitting over at lunch, and gosh, I wish they would stop. Blah 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 blah. Like that kind of like, and likewise on the sales side, they don't understand the pressure we're under. They don't know how hard it is to hit quota, and just how much just simple exposure. I mean, you just said just better communication throughout the organization. How much just basic exposure really washes out a lot of the problems and weaknesses. Switching it up a little bit, marketing. For the marketers listening, what does a marketer need to know about CS that he or she probably doesn't know?
I can speak in terms of customer marketing. A couple things that we've learned is we love to have resources and assets and communication to go out to our customers. It needs to be really easy to actually get out there. And what I mean by that is we have, at our organization, our product marketing team, every time we release a new feature, and not every feature, but the bigger releases, we like to push it through customer success because we find that our engagement and emails coming directly from our success reps versus sending it out through our marketing automation is drastically higher. In fact, little shameless plug here, we use our own system, Outreach, in order to do this, where our average open rate on an email coming from customer success is like 45+%. Whereas if you were to send it through marketing automation, your open rate would be probably in the single digits, maybe into the teens. So we find it's a lot more effective. Now, where I'm going with this is the only way that you can ask your success reps to do this is if you make it really easy for them to communicate. So you have to either draft the email that the reps are going to send, or in our case, we draft an entire sequence, which is several emails, and all of the reps will have their list of customers that they want to send it to. So it's really just a couple clicks to get that communication out there. So I guess the high level theme there is marketing. If you want success to push anything to their customers, you have to make it dead simple for them to do.
I love it. So for us, we do have a ton of larger accounts, but we also have even more very small accounts. And so it wouldn't be practical to do that. But I can think of, several hundred accounts of ours that we should definitely put into play what you prescribed there, which is it builds the relationship. It creates another opportunity to get back in front of the customer with a message of value instead of, hey, is everything okay? It's like, hey, here's more value that we're building onto your account. If you have any questions, let me know. It gives people a reason to get back in front of a customer, which is awesome. I wrote that one down and started. I'm writing a lot of stuff down, but I wrote that one down and started because I'm going to pitch that one internally. Last one in the series of questions about what should people understand a little bit better about CS. Speak to the executives, like a VP of engineering or a VP of product or a CEO or somebody else that isn't in the guts, probably hasn't been in the guts of a customer success, customer support, customer care organization. What would be helpful for them to know about the customer success function?
That is a good question. Honestly, nothing really comes to mind that's a real standout. I guess the one that I found has been really valuable internally that I think we do well is just bring your executives to customer meetings. We do this really well. We have, for all of our accounts, we have, what do we call it? An executive sponsor, outreach executive sponsor. So for at least all of our strategic accounts, so probably our top 100, 200 accounts, we have a designated assigned executive on our team. We try to align an executive who either, like our engineering, VP of engineering would probably be aligned to one of our customers who sells a product that would resonate with VPs of engineering. So it can help build rapport that way. And I'd say as you're going around and doing on-sites with these customers, or even if they're a smaller customer and they don't warrant an on-site, even an email introduction to one of your executives, we found that to be hugely successful. It also helps you up-level the conversation within an organization. A lot of times you can spend your entire day having conversations, at least in the success world, talking with your ops and enablements team. Those are the primary personas who administer our tool. By bringing in our executives, it's done wonders for us to up-level that conversation to the executive level on our customer side.
That's killer. It also lets the customer know how important they are. Like if an executive from the company is showing up at just another sign that I care, it also keeps the executive team in touch with what's really happening out in the field. So just another great tip. Hey, before we get to the way I always like to close the show, you've spent time with one of the brands that's regarded as one of the most excellent in terms of customer experience. That company is Nordstrom. I believe they're based up in the Pacific Northwest as you are. So you spent a little bit of time there. What did you learn in your time there? Like, how were you onboarded or trained? Or is there something that you took away from that? Just because it's such a legendary brand from the way that they treat their customers. What was that? Now, we are, again, going back about a decade. So, bring forward what you can. But I just saw that on your LinkedIn profile and I thought Nordstrom is worth a mention.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I can sum this up in one sentence, really. And this stuck with me in my time there. They said, we will not fire you. Well, everybody knows Nordstrom has one of the most exceptional return policies out there. And that just says something about their customer experience. And I remember one quote that somebody said to me was, you will not get fired for doing a bad return, but you may get fired if you don't return something. And so it just says that you always put the customer first. And we would rather take the loss and take a return that maybe we shouldn't have, or maybe it's going to hurt our business a little bit. But if it helps our brand and it makes our customer experience better, then do it. So that one really stuck with me. I think that just kind of emulates the way that they think about customer experience.
It's so good because it's all about repeat and referral, and that's the kind of thing. There's just so many stories come out of that as a policy. When you train everyone on the way in the door that's how we treat people, you're just giving customers, as soon as they experience this, easy ways to talk about the brand and the company. Hey, here on the podcast and at BombBomb, where I work, we're all about relationships. It's our number one core value. So I like to give you the chance to thank or mention someone who's been really important or valuable in your work or in your life, and in a company that you personally have experienced excellent customer care.
Yeah, absolutely. There's actually two people that come to mind. The first is my former SVP of of revenue. And that would be Matt Millen. And one thing that I learned from him that really stuck with me is the power of being prompt. And one story in particular that stands out, we were doing, what was it? It was a customer event over on the East Coast, and we were catching an early flight back the next morning. And we had been out with customers and doing the wining and dining thing and having a great time. And if there were any morning to have an excuse to meet in the lobby at maybe a few minutes after the time that we had specified, that would have been the morning to do so. And to Matt's credit, every time we're supposed to be somewhere, he's always 15 minutes early, always. And this morning was no exception. That'll stick with me forever. He taught me the power of being prompt, and I've definitely tried to take more of that into my life. It's had a big influence. The other person that comes to mind that's had a huge influence on me is I haven't talked to her in probably 5 or 6 years, but Lori Small. Back in my JAMA days, I remember this is like my first real career job. And it was at a tech company, and it was really cool. And they had the whole laid back lifestyle or culture with the kegs in the break room. And they had the Papa Shot, and they had the ping pong. And I was fully embracing this lifestyle, as you could say. And I remember her pulling me aside and saying, Nick, I know how hard you work, but not everybody at this organization does. And you should really know that appearances are reality. And I see you playing ping pong and Papa Shot with your coworkers, and it's great that we have this culture here, but just don't forget, for those other people who may not work with you in as close of a relationship that I do, they may not realize how hard of a worker you are. So that's really stuck with me throughout my career. And maybe that might even be the reason I'm the guy that is coined as wearing the tie every day to work. But so those two have definitely stuck with me over my career.
It's good stuff and great tips there too. Talk a little bit about a company that you really respect for the way that they have treated you. Could be a restaurant, it could be a brand, it could be a neighborhood shop. I've had all kinds of responses to this one, and they're all very interesting. It could be software that you use.
Oh, that is a great question. Oh, you know who does a really good job at this is Alaska Airlines. God, they've got just a great customer experience. I fly almost exclusively with them now, and any opportunity that I have to sing their praises, I do. I think the way that they do customer service is phenomenal. The fact that you can still pick up the phone and call somebody and answer. And one little thing that they do that has always stuck with me is they say when their customer support answers the phone, they say, "This is Nick in Seattle, Washington." And it just humanizes the person that you're talking to and gives you some sort of icebreaker to talk about. So I think they do a really great job with customer experience.
It's cool. Thank you so much for taking the opportunity to prop them up and former coworkers whose lessons still stick with you today. I always enjoy those questions because I always get great answers like yours. Hey, Nick, your time has been so valuable to me. I hope listeners have enjoyed it too. Thank you so much for doing it. If someone wants to connect with you or with Outreach, what are a couple ways they might do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great way. You can shoot me an email specifically if you want. It's nick.hart@outreach.io. You can check out our website at outreach.io. Yeah, those should be all of the necessary channels if you want to get in touch with us.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your insights. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you, Ethan. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed that episode. You should follow up with Nick Hart and Outreach on LinkedIn. And if you want to hear more conversations with other CS leaders, marketing leaders, sales leaders, founders, and executives about how to create and deliver a better customer experience, check out the Customer Experience Podcast. It's available in iTunes and Apple Podcasts. It's in Spotify, and you can find it at bombbomb.com/podcast. My name is Ethan Beute, and thanks for listening to the B2B Growth Show.
We totally get it. We publish a ton of content on this podcast, and it can be a lot to keep up with. That's why we've started the B2B Growth Big Three, a no-fluff email that boils down our 3 biggest takeaways from an entire week of episodes. Sign up today at sweetfishmedia.com/big3. That's sweetfishmedia.com/big3.